Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live,
I learned to have a softer approach where I'm asking people what their thoughts are. I could have a very solid opinion and vision for how I see how things should be done, but the other parties want to be heard. So I found that asking them, what do you think should be done in this situation? And listening and hearing their feedback and then responding with, well, why don't we try this?
But I think that if we really do listen, sometimes we can learn a different perspective that perhaps we weren't thinking of. Have you ever had that happen?
No, I'm always right.
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Vox. I'm also a hard-working entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that is possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Jessica Summers, who is, well, if you haven't figured it out already from our last names, Jessica and I are related, but not by blood, by circumstance. I met Jessica when she was just 11 years old because I was dating her dad. And I'll never forget that first meeting with her and her sister Ashley, both of them relentlessly pitching me to marry their dad. And that was just on our second date. We didn't date long, and that's how at just age 24, I found myself stepping into the role of being a step-parent with no instruction manual, just two spirited middle schoolers and a whole lot to learn. But somehow we figured it out together, didn't we, Jessica?
Oh, yes.
Well, since then, I've had the privilege of being Jessica's bonus mom, as we affectionately call it, and also her boss, mentor, and friend through the years. Officially on her LinkedIn, it says she started interning with Pitch Publicity in 2008 during her junior year of college, but the truth is she was actually intern 0, probably back around 2003, 2004. The original pitch star, and we'll get into that story a little bit later. After graduating from the University of South Florida in 2009 with a degree in public relations, Jessica has built a powerhouse career in marketing and PR. She's worked with tech giants like Syniverse, where she served as global public relations manager, and she has led strategic campaigns for nonprofits and government agencies, including the University of South Florida and Hillsborough County. And she also earned her APR accreditation from the Public Relations Society of America, an industry distinction that reflects both expertise and ethics. Her work has even earned her a Silver Anvil Award, which is basically the Oscars of PR. And today, Jessica calls Cayman Islands home. Don't be too jealous, where she lives with her husband, Carlos, and balances life as a scuba diver, a mom, and a brand strategist. She works with clients across a range of industries, bringing together expertise in research, content marketing, SEO, digital advertising, employee communications, social media, influencer outreach, traditional media, events, and just about everything in between. That's a lot, Jessica. Well, welcome, Jessica. I don't like to say this word very often, but I'm going to say it with you because you are a diver, and I'm very excited to dive right in and explore how you make success happen, or as you know, what I call MSH. So let's get into it. But before we do, we're doing a little series this season called Behind the Bio. So I just gave everyone your official professional bio, but I would like you to share something that's not on your bio, that's not on LinkedIn, that you would want our audience to know about you that the public may not know.
So this is a little bit tied to the bio, just a little bit, indirectly, because you can kind of maybe infer since I love to do so many things. That's reflected in how I'm touching SEO and just everything and anything that goes ranges from PR to marketing to even sometimes more into the sales realm, or sometimes you get into the corporate communication. So a part of the bit about me behind the scenes is I just love diversity. I love a variety of things. I never could decide what I wanted to do when I grew up. So that's how PR and marketing fits in, because you don't really have to decide. You can do it all because this field translates across industries.
You can go anywhere.
Yes.
And you have. You have gone all the way to the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
But let's go back a little bit further than that. Let's go back to those early days when I was still in a home office when I first started Pitch Publicity. And my office doubled as your bedroom every other weekend when you would come to visit me and your dad. And I think you were about 16 or 17. And I started teaching you how to pitch media, mainly just to give you something to do and keep you out of trouble. But what do you remember about pitching media when you were a high schooler?
The most impactful thing when I look back is just the irony of not realizing that what I was doing then was literally going to carry me throughout the entire trajectory of my entire career. And, at that age, you just look at it as a timestamp and you're just doing something, but it truly carried me on. And I think one of the key lessons I learned from that time was the power of the follow up, and how no matter what you're doing in life, particularly when you're pitching, you always have to follow up, because if you don't, then that means whatever it is wasn't really that important, and people are busy, so you have to follow up.
You're good at follow up, I have to say. You're really good. And I'm glad that you learned that from pitching and from working with me. I know I'm always on people. We call it stalker a little bit. Little stalker, but
Just a little bit.
just a little bit. Do you remember what part of pitching or what part of the pitching process that you struggled with the most in the beginning, and how do you approach that now?
Yes,
What was most challenging?
absolutely. So this goes back to the liking to variety and a diversity of things. So when you're working on very large campaigns and the pitch is just nonstop, that to me can be a little bit repetitive. So what I did in my mind is I gamified it, because I also like a challenge, and I like checking all the tick boxes on, and getting things down and going down a list. So for me, it was fun to be able to connect with different media members and really be able to cross it off my list. Even if it was a no, I was able to cross it off and have closure. And then every time I got a yes, it felt like a win. And then at the very end of it, seeing all the yeses come through, and then learning how to adapt the pitch style through it was more of a game for me. So that kept it interesting.
Yeah, I love gamifying it, but I even remember when you were a teenager and I was like, okay, if you get this many, then we're gonna go do this. And I would give you like little
Incentives.
incentives, and I could just see your mind working. You're like trying to figure out how to clear all those
It's like,
goals.
how
So
many
you're
pedicures can I get?
I know how many pedicures and manicures. I was throwing anything at you just to keep you motivated. No, I did look back at your schedules when you were working at Pitch Publicity officially as an intern during your college years, and I saw that you worked on many of our nonprofit campaigns, including Operation Warm and Florida Dance Festival, and even the Population Institute. Do you remember one campaign or individual that you worked with that left a lasting impression on you, and who was that and why?
Yes, they're all so unique in so many ways. I absolutely love culture. I love arts. I love the healthcare, natural product industry, and I didn't realize how much I loved all those things then. So I think I have carried that with me throughout the rest of the trajectory of who I am now, and how I live my daily life. In terms of more work related outcomes, one of the highlights that stands out to me is the first time that I got a piece was a print piece, and it was published verbatim, and that was through Pet Promise, through it was the natural dog food. And it was amazing because that just validates the work that you're doing, that the content is so rich and it's such a feature style story, and it resonates so well with the audience that the publisher said, "This is amazing. We're going to go and publish this as is." So I remember that being very, very rewarding.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people don't put a lot of weight on print, but to me, getting anything in print still today, like recently we got something in the New York Times, and just seeing your client in print, there's just something about it that's so special, more special than seeing it online. All right, Pet Promise was a great client. I remember that too. I'm glad you got to work with them. I want to talk about what it was like interning with your bonus mom. Let's talk about that. So, in a professional setting, it can be a little awkward, maybe, but you seem to handle everything gracefully. What was the dynamic like working in the office? Because when you were interning with us, once, this is beyond Jessica's teenage years. I started in a home office, but then we graduated and had an actual building. And so when Jessica was in college, she came to the office at Pitch Publicity, and there were other employees there, and she was in on the meetings and everything. But what was that dynamic like working in an office? Were there moments that you had to kind of navigate boundaries with team members? Did they not share everything with you, or did you feel kind of on the outside because you were related to the owners?
No, so anytime you're going into a situation where, whether you're related to someone, or even, let's say, if you know them through a family contact, or you just know them personally outside, I think there's something always to have that awareness in the back of your mind when you are approaching work, to always remain professional, because how other people view you may or may not be correct, but that could impact how you get work done, whether they're going to collaborate with you or not. For us, the way that the work was managed was in a really cool way, to where it was competitive, but you weren't necessarily in direct cutthroat competition. So we all had our own campaigns that we were working on, and there was goals and rewards and prizes at the end. And so you're basically competing against other people, but you're not on the same exact project. So people were very collaborative, sharing ideas. And I think that that's a good model for an office setup anyway, because the last thing an employer wants to do, or a manager, is to set up too much competition within an internal team to where they're cutthroat and not sharing. So I loved how it was a competition, but it was like on a very individual, you have your own performance that you're managing. So I think that
Yeah, you were in competition with yourself, and you wanted to kind of shine in those meetings. And I think you did a really good job of proving yourself by just doing the work, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, the boss is my bonus mom, so I'm going to get special treatment. You handled it in a different way to just prove that you could do the work.
absolutely. And I don't think anyone gains anything by taking shortcuts and not doing hard work.
Well, you also did something very wise, and you didn't just intern for me. You had other internships during your college years. And I want to talk about one of those college internships because at the time, it was just a local Tampa internship that you were doing. But more recently, this particular organization blew up on Netflix. Jessica was interning with Big Cat Rescue long before Tiger King became a household name. What do you remember about working with Carol Baskin in 2008? And how did you land that internship?
No, that was a fabulous internship. I think anytime you get to work with a cause organization, it's really fulfilling. So for Big Cat Rescue, they have all sorts of initiatives. One of those is a huge gala that they would have every year. And so that was my first taste at doing a formal event. So that really helped me understand how to do the upfront marketing and promotion and branding of the event, all the way carrying through how to execute an event that is, one, not only entertaining for people to attend and show up to, but also to spend money, because that's really what all these galas are about, are driving and funneling money back into a cause organization. So that was really, really cool to see. And
they had a cool name too, the Fur Ball.
yes, the fur ball. That's right. That's right. And people would dress up like cats and everything. So just like all the decoration would be cat themed. So that was really nice. And I had no idea that fast forward all these years later, I would be doing a bit more in the event space, because that can sometimes be more of a siloed tactic and role within PR and marketing. And some teams, there's been entire event teams that just work on something within your marketing team. And then you fast forward to some of the things I'm doing now where I'm the one executing some of the events. So it's really rewarding to look back and see how all that experience is funneled through.
So you help pick Big Cat Rescue with their fundraising events, the big one every year. And that was a great experience for you. And then years later, Carol Baskin's on Netflix. People are binging it and they're watching Tiger King. Did you watch Tiger King?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness, I know these people. This is amazing.
Was there anything that you felt was like completely off with that series or anything that you were like, that's not Carol Baskin?
So I would say that I was shocked by what I was seeing from some of the other, I guess you wouldn't call them sanctuaries, but the other, I guess, cat farms, so to say, because I knew that Big Cat Rescue would rescue these animals from these places or from any type of breeders, but I didn't realize the level of chaos that went on inside of them. So I think that to me was particularly shocking. And then just knowing the organization and knowing the people, it was hard for me to watch, just knowing that there's so much drama that gets caught up in some of these reality type shows, and just to like think about how much stress that would place someone under is just, whew, that's a lot.
So tell everyone where Big Cat Rescue is today, in case they don't know or they haven't followed along.
Yes.
What's the status of Big Cat Rescue?
The interesting thing about the whole TV series is it really helped Big Cat Rescue with their end mission. So you have this crazy reality show that brings to light all the negative things in the industry of cat breeding, and it did a lot of reputational damage to pretty much everyone involved. However, for Big Cat Rescue, it worked out perfectly get it?
Perfectly.
Because their end goal and objective essentially was to put themselves out of business, because they know that it's not appropriate to have wild animals in captivity and being bred for pets or having children and people come by and interact and touch and pet them. So their goal has always been to end captive breeding. And they had been lobbying for years and years and years with the government and setting aside all these programs to help reduce the number of cats in captivity. So then you have this Tiger King show come along and everyone wakes up to the horrors of what's really happening and the dangers also of going and being in person with these animals. So it really accelerated the timeline of shutting down some of these organizations. And so to this day, Big Cat Rescue no longer has to be at its permanent location in Tampa, Florida. They shut it down and they relocated their big cats to another sanctuary in a different state. And they are now helping with fundraising for that sanctuary. But essentially, the number of big cats that are coming in that need to be rescuing have dwindled as a result. So it's a huge success story for them.
Yeah, pretty risky, but she definitely brought a lot of attention to the issue from a PR perspective.
Yes.
So good or bad, she got the job done, and she's a pretty tough lady. So I think she's one of the few people that can have the thick skin and probably take all the hate that can come along with shows like that.
Yeah.
And I think she was on Dancing with the Stars too, so I think she made out pretty good. All right, so from big cats to big tech, you worked for a really big tech. Now we're fast forwarding a little bit. After you graduated, you had some other jobs, but eventually landed a major role as global PR manager at Syniverse. First of all, just tell everybody what Syniverse is, because maybe a lot of people don't even know what they do. And then what was the most exciting part about that job?
Yeah, so Syniverse is a company that if they were not there, you would know it, but you don't know that they're there if everything's working correctly. So they basically connect all the communication systems in the world, so to say. It's
Like basically, you can't talk on this phone if Syniverse isn't around.
pretty much, yes. Some of the words, I don't even want to bring up the word roaming because I feel like people don't even know what that is anymore. But basically, it allows technology to talk to each other. And if you want to be connected and communicating, this company does it globally. So they're a huge player. And so my role there, when we say PR, just to break it down, the role was very aligned with corporate communications. So it was everything for employee communications internally as well as external communications, managing media and the analyst, and even a little bit with investor relations as well. And of course, PR always is working simultaneously with every other part of the marketing function. So, I mean, we worked very closely with our events teams and product marketing teams and product managers and every person in the
It's a
company.
global company. You got to travel globally.
Yes.
Yes. What did you like most about that job?
Ooh, tough question. Hmm. I liked the scope of the projects that we got to work on and how integrated they were. Because most of the things we did, of course, you can do your one-off media interviews here, your one-off analyst reports here and there. But what we really like to do is wrap things around a larger campaign or a larger product. And sure, the product might be part of it, but there was usually like a larger narrative that was usually driven by the PR team, and we would funnel that through all the other marketing functions. So you would have the marketing teams sending out white papers for download to our customers as a free resource for them for an educational type of added benefit, or they would be doing lead generation campaigns through digital channels where you have your potential customers that are downloading, you're getting their email addresses and contact information in exchange, or some of those materials are going out to the sales team, or some of the themes that we're launching the campaigns are tied into events or customer trainings. And so like it's all like very integrated and launched globally. So I think the scale and the scope and the integration is my favorite.
Yeah, you were working in PR for a corporation. So there's a lot of internal PR that happens. And I remember specifically one of the things that you told me that you loved about your job was because at that point you had previously worked at some agencies. And I remember when you were working at Syniverse, you were like, I'm so glad I get to manage the PR agencies that are working for us because I get to tell them what to do. I have a lot of young people, young students that intern with us, and they're always trying to weigh, should I go the agency route or should I go the corporate route? And it seems like they know more about the agency route, and probably just because they learn more about that in school. And a lot of people don't understand the value of corporate. Which one do you like better, agency or corporate? Which environment did you like better?
That's so hard. I don't have a favorite. I
Okay.
oscillate between the two. I feel like once I've been in one for a while, I'm like, okay, I'm itching to swap, and then like I swap back and forth.
Mhm.
Because I mean, they're both great. I feel like in the corporate side, or even if you're just working in-house at one company, you do get to make such a large impact. Sometimes when you're at an agency, you are always going to be the third party. So there is only so much influence you can have. Yes, you can have influence and it can be great, and you can work on a variety of clients. But at the end of the day, every client has a scope and a set number of monies they're going to be able to pay your agency. So at some point, it is pencils down. They've reached their scope. You've given them the advice, and that's all you can do. Versus a lot of times, if you're in-house, you can work your way around and really have more of that change that's going to reach every part of the business. But I will say, what I will say is usually if you, particularly corporate, but in-house most of the time does pay more. So not that's
Yeah, I think it's a little overlooked fact that people miss out on. But yeah, I mean, agency work is hard. It's like
if you're
I always
going to
tell
work
people, it's
hard,
like
get paid more for it, right?
I feel like in a corporate environment, you have one boss or, like a team of bosses or something. But like when you're an agency, it feels like you have a whole bunch of bosses because all the clients also kind of are like bosses and they all have different styles of working.
Yes. And it does really depend on how the company's structured too, because many times you can, if you're in-house, you can hire an agency to do the things that you don't want to do. So, I mean, that's perfect, right? And then other times I've been really jealous that the agencies work on all these creative things. So, I mean, it's you're never going to have a static season. It's always going to fluctuate. So for me, that's why I keep finding myself hopping back and forth between the two.
Well, let's talk a little bit about bosses and particularly your boss at Syniverse, who I remember you speaking very highly of. I know you really respected him. What was it about? Well, tell me, who was your boss at Syniverse, if you want to name drop, and then what was it about his leadership style that made you want to show up and do your best at a company where, I mean, really, let's be real, was very techy, very technical. Even all that stuff you said, I don't think you necessarily sold anyone on going to work for Syniverse. So, but I remember your relationship with your boss was pivotal in that company. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So huge shout out to Bobby Eagle, who was my boss at the time. And first of all, having a boss that is brilliant is always amazing. So one, I will say he's brilliant. And outside of that, he's also accredited in APR. I know that I mentioned that about myself at the beginning of the session, but he understands marketing. He understands PR. He gets it. And you have to be strategic in what you're doing. And he was never afraid to direct people in the way that they needed to go. Because let's face it, when in this industry, people, whether it's the CEO or your clients or other coworkers, will try to force projects onto you that do not make any sense at all. They're going to come up with all these grand ideas of how they should launch this and launch that. And you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, that could be great, but you have a customer service issue at hand. If you don't fix this customer service issue, there's no amount of marketing spin or anything I can put on this. And so he was never afraid to have those tough conversations, and he always knew how to do it tactfully, something I'm still learning how to do, and learning who he can say to what and when and how far he can go. And he did that brilliantly to the point where he would convince you that whatever he wanted you to do was your idea. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, we should do this. And he'd be like, perfect. That was really his idea all along. I still don't know how he did it.
He was backleading. Bobby is like, I feel like Bobby is like the pinnacle of PR. I mean, yes, he does PR, but he himself is PR. I mean, he's able to I remember that about when I met him. He just had this aura about him that you were going to like whatever he suggested somehow.
Yes. And you would think it was your idea, and you would feel great about this idea you came up with, and it was really his all along.
We should mention here that while Jessica did not go to the University of Florida and did not follow in my footsteps,
Bobby did.
Her favorite boss was me, a Gator, and also Bobby, a Gator. So she has been influenced by Gators, even though she went to the University of South Florida.
Yes. That is the only reason why I've been successful in my career.
Yes, you're led by Gators.
Yes.
Well, all right. So, is there anything you mentioned that you haven't quite mastered Bobby Eagle level of leadership, but is there anything that you did pick up from his leadership style that you're using today that works? Can you give us what it is?
Yes, absolutely. So this actually also goes back to the follow-up as well, which is interesting. Follow up with everyone all the time about everything. So in order to keep marketing projects going forward, you really have to stay on top of people, because it's one of those things that people can just, whether again it's the CEO or your client, they're going to have this great idea that's urgent, but then some other shiny thing comes up that's more related to some P&L or some legal issue that's going to take precedence, and people can sometimes lose sight of other projects they're working on. So in order to have success and get the results that are needed in the very end, you have to continue driving it home. And this also comes down to managing employees as well. Anytime you have an issue with someone, or even if someone's doing great, you need to recognize and follow up in the moment with them and recognize them for the great work that they're doing, and also take a step back and be like, okay, let's do it a little bit different this way and this time, or okay, I see how you did this, or explain to me why you did this, and really put them on the course for correction and not letting it slip by, which I know is super hard these days when we're all so busy and we're in so many meetings and running and doing various things.
Yeah. If it wasn't done correctly, let them correct it and show them how to do it, and they'll remember it next time.
Yes. You know what? So it's interesting you said that, because he was huge on doing that as well. Very huge. He'd be like, here's the feedback, and then he wouldn't do it for us. He
Right.
would say, here's the feedback. You
Because I think as a leader sometimes, or a boss or a manager, it's easy to just say, oh, they didn't do it right, I will fix it.
Yeah.
But then it keeps being done wrong too. So even though it's hard to go back to someone and say, this wasn't done right, redo it. I know I personally feel like a nag sometimes when I do that, but I know that the person gets better at it when they correct it themselves.
For
All
sure.
right. So good leadership from Bobby that you learned. I want to shift gears a little bit off of Syniverse, and we don't have to talk about a specific company, but you have worked for a lot of different agencies and companies, and you've been in lots of different environments, government and universities and privately held companies and publicly held. I mean, you've been all over the place. So I want to talk about maybe some more topics that people don't normally talk about, and I want to do that with you because we're comfortable together. We've known each other the longest. You're intern 0. You're also my bonus daughter. So I know we've had a lot of conversations about toxic or situations that weren't so good. And I want to talk to you about this because in my book, I have a whole chapter on this because I don't think people address it enough. Um, but can you just share with us, because I think it's helpful to others to hear stories, but can you share with us maybe an uncomfortable business situation or something that happened, and how you had to navigate that, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah. So my first advice to anyone would be stick it out, whatever it is. I think that in society, we're too quick to jump ship for things and look at the grass being greener on the other side. And maybe the grass is greener on the other side. In most cases, it probably is, but you're missing out on a key learning opportunity to grow yourself and to help improve your character. And sometimes you just need to buckle up and get through it. So I will say that I've been in several situations where either people were kind of playing me as being a newer, younger level employee, and they were in time crunches and needed to get their projects done, and kind of pushing mine under the radar and not getting them through, and kind of laying the blame on the lower level employees, so to say, which is never works out great for those employees. It definitely causes issues in an organization. I've been in organizations where I have flat out not agreed with my direct supervisors in the tactics and strategies that they use, or how a business was being run, or just in environments where employees are just disgruntled and they're not happy, and they voice that, and that comes out, and
Mhm.
it's not a comfortable environment to be in. So I will say there's some wisdom in sticking things out, and I've heard stories from other people as well that have stuck things out, and then you fast forward later to maybe they didn't get that promotion that one time, and there was all these issues surrounded by it, but then you fast forward however many years later, and the person that was causing issues is no longer there. In most cases, they're fired, and and you get the promotion. So I think there's a lot of character building and a lot of room for that in sticking it out and not just
I
calling
like how you
quits.
mention sticking it out because I think especially now it feels the environment right now feels like everything and everybody's disposable. Like if you don't like it,
Yeah, if you're
don't go back
uncomfortable,
to work.
yeah,
Just ghost them, don't respond. Like there's something else around the corner.
yeah,
But I like how you mentioned like just sticking it out sometimes can lead to a promotion or something else or a learning. Was there
sure.
a specific learning you can share with us that you learned from sticking it out one time about yourself
Yes,
or
so
okay.
I tend to be quite direct, and a lot of the work environments I've been in reward that, and that's how you get things done, and people appreciate it. But that's not how all organizations work. So in the sticking it out phases, I've had to learn how to have a good attitude, which is key. You can't stick it out and have a bad attitude. That doesn't help anyone. That just makes things worse. So I've learned how to keep a positive attitude through situations and learn that just because I see something that needs to be done in a certain way and I know that it's right or I think that it's right doesn't mean that it always has to be done. Sometimes the better answer is to have every party involved being happy. And I've seen situations where marketing campaigns have completely flopped and been disastrous. And sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that sees it and I'm like, this is terrible. I see how this is going to impact your customers, it's going to impact your business, it's going to impact this. But sometimes you just have to hold your tongue because it's not your place to say something. It's not your position, it's not the correct timing. And if your client and your boss and everyone else are happy and they all think it's great, then what is the better thing to do? So I think there's wisdom in learning when to speak, when not to speak, and just have and being content through it all. Because at the end of the day, we come and we do the best job that we can, and we want to hit all the marks. We want to progress in our careers. We want to do all the things. But at the end of the day, if you damage relationships in the process, then what you have is worthless.
Can you you're talking about being direct. I also know that like we've talked about this before, like just assertiveness, when assertiveness backfires on you. Um talk to me a little bit about because I even saw on LinkedIn you commented on somebody's post when they were like, it was kind of directed to women. It's like, just go out there and be strong and say your mind. And you're like, yeah, but read the room. Can you tell me a little bit about certain situations in which assertiveness, which we're kind of told to do, can backfire on you and how to balance that between being collaborative and making sure things, like you say, actually do get done?
Yes. So I think it entirely depends on who you're working with. And I learned to have a softer approach where I'm asking people what their thoughts are. I could have a very solid opinion and vision for how see how things should be done in order to get the results that need to be achieved. But oftentimes the other parties want to be heard. So I found that asking them, what do you think should be done in this situation? And listening and hearing their feedback and then responding with, well, why don't we try this? Is a much softer way to go.
And I like how you say listening too, because I feel like a lot of times in our assertiveness, we don't listen. And we think we already know the answer, even if we do the customary tell me what you think. But I think that if we really do listen, sometimes we can learn a different perspective that perhaps we weren't thinking of. Have you ever had that happen?
No, I'm always right. I'm just that I am still working on, I will
Okay.
say.
That's okay. I love the honesty. It's hard. It's really, really hard. Well, talking about listening, I want to talk about something else personal. You're a new mom again.
Yes.
Congrats. For the record, I just want to let everyone know by the time you're going to see this, Jessica has had 2 babies before I got done with my book. So a lot of people talk about with authors, like, writing a book is like a pregnancy and having a baby. And I'm going to tell you that is absolutely false because Jessica had 2 babies while I was writing the book. So it has been a long time. But you're a new mom. And you got 2 under 2 at the moment. And I want to know, because in my book, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you today is because I have a lot of parallels in my book about parenthood and leadership, because in both scenarios, you're mentoring, basically. You're mentoring your children and you're mentoring people at work. And I just want to know from you, now that you're a new mom and this is a new chapter in your life, how are you seeing those parallels in your family and in your young children? Do you see any similarities in mentoring them and mentoring people at work?
Yes, I do. So I think you have to lead by example. And I know it sounds cliche, but when I say lead by example, I mean physically showing people how to do things, because I have to mirror a lot for my child and display the type of emotions that are okay and appropriate for, like, when he gets upset or if he's trying to eat and throw something on the floor. So it's very much okay, this is how you do it. There's been times where other people in our family are trying to feed him and they cut everything up very small for him so he can eat it. And I'm like, okay, he's getting older now. Like, stop cutting things up so small. And I'm like literally like on my fork with my mouth open. I'm not gonna do it right now, but showing, like, reminding him how to chew because he knows how to chew. And sometimes he forgets and he just like tries to swallow it and choke on it. So instead of like cutting up the pieces for him, this goes back to what you were saying earlier about doing it for someone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing him, I'm taking that piece of green beans and going, and like, here's my teeth, like actively doing it. Just the other night, I took one of his stuffed animals that has teeth. And I'm like, okay, this is how we're brushing our teeth, because the kid will not open his mouth to brush his teeth. It's crazy. So so it's like keeping it fun and also demonstrating and showing. So I find huge parallels in the workplace for doing that, because you can't go and tell someone, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z. But as a boss, I'm going to turn around and do something else or ignore it or not want to deal with it because it's hard. And I'm just going to make my employees do it because it's easier for me and I don't want to do the hard work. So I would see that's definitely something. And then for us, in terms of having help with childcare, since we are both working very full time, just managing someone, taking care of your child has been super interesting and challenging for me, because I'm used to doing it in an office setting, but then to do it in a home setting where it's personal that's been a huge challenge. But it comes back to addressing things in the moment and demonstrating and showing and explaining and letting people know the why behind things. Because if people don't understand the why, whether it's my child or his daytime caregiver or your employees in the office, and they can't think for themselves, and they're never going to be able to bridge those dots and connect the dots. They're just going to be a robotic machine that just does what people tell them. So I think telling the why, the demonstrating and showing are huge in all those instances.
I love these. I love these parent parallels now. Great advice. Well, as we wrap up here, I know that people will want to know how to connect with you. So what's the best way for our Pitch Live community to connect with you?
Through all the ways. You can contact me through LinkedIn, through WhatsApp, through Instagram. My Facebook is locked down, so you won't find me, but you can find me through email, all the other channels.
Yeah, you can follow her on Instagram because she is a good salsa dancer too, and they salsa dance with their babies.
I probably won't answer for anything regarding TikTok, but I'm everywhere. I try to log in my Twitter account the other day, and I'm like locked out. I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's a lost cause.
No
It's
Twitter
okay.
either.
Yeah, okay. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have inspired so many people in your career journey and that you'll continue to do so. I want to encourage everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed and inspired by my amazing bonus daughter and also Pitch Star, the original one. And everything that Jessica's doing. Be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn at Jessica Summers APR. And if you want to see those salsa moves on Instagram at JA Summers with a Z. That's the tricky part. So check her out there. And she also posts a lot about diving too. So if you're a diving fan, you will love Jessica's page on Instagram. Well, thank you again, Jessica, for joining me. This has been really special to me to have you on this episode especially. And I also want to thank all of you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you are inspired today to get out there and pitch and advocate for yourself. Make success happen. Go get pregnant twice, 2 under 2. Jessica did it. She does it all the time. MSH.
Going for 3 under 3.
3 under 3. Okay, maybe that'll be next. I don't know. As a bonus, you can join us at emecbox.com where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link is going to be in the show notes along with all my social media handles. So let's stay connected and follow each other in success. And until next time, MSH. Thank you, Jessica.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.